Let's get going. So, thank you for joining me. Today, I want to talk about something really interesting. I, I don't know, is that really the way I want to start this stream? No. Let's be a little bit more honest. Today, I want to talk about divorced men. And I want to talk about divorced men because the problems are pretty significant. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because actually nobody really talks about this. So there are plenty of guys who will get online, they'll talk about, oh, this is the divorce. Be careful, be careful, be careful. But we're not really being honest about a couple of things. Number one, yes, divorce can be absolutely brutal, of course. I myself am the product of divorce, so I know what that's like, at least as far as the perspective of children. A number of my friends, men and women who've gone through divorce. But when we talk about it, especially for people who haven't done it, I think one of the problems is we still have this strong feeling that number one, it's not going to happen to me. Number two, maybe the guys weren't the best. You hear stories from women who are like, "Oh, he doesn't help out around the house. He doesn't do this. He's a second child." All of this stuff, but we never really ask ourselves why. And I think even as men, we have a strong tendency to be very critical of other men and to still apply the women are wonderful filter to to these situations that we hear about. So here's a really good example. A woman will say, "Oh, I have to do everything around here." No one ever asks, "Well, what happens when he does things?" We just accept at total face value that this man who otherwise is working, leading his life, running a business, working a job, paying his bills, he did everything in his whole life before you. And now you've come along, and this guy who wasn't born in the 40s, this guy who was born in the 80s, 90s, the 2000s, you want us to believe that, oh, well, actually, he doesn't do anything at home. I have to do everything. Chances are that's not true. And if you've lived with a woman, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, what tends to happen is a woman will come into a space and she will generally try to take over. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to have control of the space. Let me decorate. Leave it all to me. I'm a woman. I can make the house a home. And what guys do, and again, we have to be really honest about what men are. And I say this all the time: men are mortal. We're only human beings. And so what a man will do is they'll say, look, I don't really care about whether this painting is on the left wall or on the right wall. I don't really care if the soup is in this cabinet or this cabinet. She cares. You know what? I'll make her happy and I will just let her have her own way. And this I think is the beginning of the error that will compound itself 6 months down the line. And so when they say she can have her own way, well, she does. And in the moment, she'll be pleased because I get my own way. I get to do it how I want. This is how I want it. And she'll seem very happy, and you'll be very happy because she seems very happy. But the problem is now you are not building a proper mental map of what's going on, nor are you taking ownership of the space. And so what happens later? Well, in the beginning, it's great. She does her own thing, she does everything. Well, guess what? You don't know where the towels go. You don't really know how she organizes it. You don't really know where all of this stuff is. She has a system which you know nothing about. Yeah, you can find where things are when you need them, but you don't really know the details of why the small towels go here and the bath towels go there. So, what inevitably happens? You're there doing things and you're not respecting her system. And then you have a new argument, which is, hey, the towels don't go there. They should go here. You need to do this. It's so frustrating that you don't follow my system. And you're like, I didn't even know we had a system. And what you don't realize is that this problem started on day one. The second that you handed over to her the ability to unilaterally create a system, we're also simultaneously signing up to follow her system, because once she establishes it, she's not going to want to change it on the fly just because you think the towel should go somewhere else. She will view it as, you had your opportunity, you didn't care. Remember, now it's you don't care. And when you said it, it was like you don't have a preference, but now it can easily be reinterpreted as, you were too lazy, you abandoned me to do everything, and now this is where the I'm doing everything narrative begins to take hold, because she now has a system, and now she's telling people she runs the house. It's her way. And now she's in a war with you because you don't do it her way. And you're never going to do it her way because you don't think like her. Your intuition is not going to be the same. You grew up in different homes, you live different lives. And so one of the key challenges for men is to not let these things happen from the beginning. So when you're entering to a space, have an opinion. One of the easiest things men can do to help themselves in terms of reestablishing or establishing a proper balance is to say, I am going to actually take an interest in what's going on. Now, here's the thing, she is not going to necessarily like that. In fact, she's probably going to be pissed with you. But you're going to have to ignore some of these things in view of a better tomorrow. So, in your mind, the position I think should be, I live here. This is my home too. I'm not going to live in your house, in your rules, in your setup. We are going to begin negotiating all of these things. And no, you're not going to get your way every time. Oh, but I really want this side of the bed. Well, that's also the side of the bed that I want. What are you saying? You wouldn't give that up for me? Now, maybe you would. And it's okay to do that. But it has to be a choice that you are making because that's something that you're willing to do, not just folding. And that's when you say things like, yeah, you can have that side of the bed. I want that side of the closet. And this is like a really important point. This is important because it is a man's nature to give to a woman. That is how we are. That's how the species has evolved. It is what it is. We don't have time in our lifetimes to resolve it or undo it. So a man's nature is to give to the woman in his life. A woman's nature is to take from the men in her life. Why is that relevant? Because because it is in your nature to give, you will have a tendency to just fold and capitulate. It is fundamentally the story of Adam and Eve, just the desire to fold. That was Adam's problem. You could argue that was the original sin. But what is Eve's nature? Eve's nature is to take, to get, to consume as much as she can, whether it's knowledge, money, energy. And so, one thing that you have to do is resist your natural desire to give, and you must force her to resist her natural desire to take. Why? Because you need an investment. Like, this is one of the biggest challenges. Is that, and the guy says all the time, oh, I took her out to this, I did this, and she just take. She'll take. She'll continue to consume as much as you can give her. And a man will give. And then when he's done, the man has nothing. He says, oh, I gave it all. And she didn't love me. She didn't care. She just took. Because you never asked her to demonstrate her own interest and her own commitment by doing what is hard for her to do, which is to give back, to invest and not spend. Women will spend everything. They'll spend your time, they'll spend your money, they'll spend your energy, they'll spend. But they rarely invest unless they have to. And this is how you can find out whether or not she has genuine burning desire for you. Is she willing to spend? Or should I say, is she willing to invest in you from herself? Is she willing to give to you? which is against her nature, which means that her desire to please you, to be with you, has to be greater than her natural tendency, which is to take. It's nothing for a woman to take from a man. It really is nothing. And it's nothing for a man to give to a woman. But to have wisdom and to have discernment, you have to be able to say, she must give. I was on a date the other day. Young lady, nice person, but we're having a conversation, and I s- she was describing, of course, it's a list of everything she wants out of a guy. He's got to do this, he's got to figure this out, he's got to do that. And I said to her, look, what are you willing to give? Like, what are you willing to give to this relationship? Like, I get you have a list of things that you want, but what are you willing to give in order to be in this situation? And she looked at me like I'd grown three heads. She had literally never thought about it. What do I have to give? Never occurred to her. And so I want you to think about that while we look at what happens when you ignore the red flags, when you ignore the problems, when you ignore your good judgment and the good judgment of people around you. So let's talk about it. We're going to do this is Reddit, of course. I'm on DivorceMen. Now let's talk about it. Let's talk about guys describing their lives in their own words. So, number one, I supported her and sacrificed my own progress for 10 years for nothing. My wife was a mess 10 years ago when we married. She still is a mess, but in different ways. The idea of marrying a nanny with financial problems wasn't that appealing to me, but I loved her and we were best friends. I could fix her, I thought. I encouraged her to go back to school, so she did and chose a $60,000 film school degree. Makes kind of a flat face here, emoji. I thought, oh well, maybe she'll make it big in the movie industry. She didn't use the degree at all. While in school, she would come home crying from her job. I told her to look for a better career, and she did. She got a job managing house rentals. From there, she still hated her life, so I told her to get her real estate license, and she did. Well, now she's the director of housing for a $1 billion company, and she's getting promoted into a C-level position, $130,000 a year or more, way above, way above, way, excuse me, way, and she's getting promoted into a C-level position, 130,000 a year or more, way up from her meager beginning as a nanny making $35,000 a year. Through all of this, I sacrificed my own progression to support her education, her emotions, her chores, and her expectations. I cooked, I cleaned, I did laundry, I kept the house neat, all while grinding away at my own career but never pursuing higher education or more money. Well, now that she's well off, she decided it's time to leave me. I'm not going to miss her when we divorce. I'm just angry I wasted 10 years on this woman, and now I'm too old to sort out my own life. I put all my eggs in her basket and she smashed them in my face. TLDR, don't stop on your own progress just to help support your crazy wife. Before we take a look at the comments, let's take a look at this with our thinking caps and say, okay, where did he go wrong? Well, he married a woman with financial problems. That's not the worst thing in the world. It's not the worst thing in the world to say, okay, she's not good with money, but if she listens and she can work with you, it's not the worst thing. Now, she chose a $60,000 film school degree, which I'm assuming he primarily paid for, or at least tremendously subsidized while she did that. And notice the behavior. She would come home and cry. She would hate her life. And he would again continue to invest in her while she's spending his time, she's spending his money, she's spending his life. And now that she has a great job, $130,000 a year plus, is she reciprocating? Is she giving? Remember what I said at the top of the show, which is It is her nature to take. It is totally an anathema to a woman to give. If she gives, it is because her desire for you overrides her natural desire to take. This is why when women pay for part of the date, it's a big deal. When women drive out to see you, that's a big deal. These are very, very good signs. Women who will just take all that you can give with no thought to you at all generally don't like you. But you can't use that as a guide because women will sleep with guys they don't like but are using for other motives. And so what did he do? When he's investing in her, he's not investing in himself. And now when she has been elevated above him, it sort of implies that she's above him, although maybe he makes $200,000 a year, but probably not. Um, Now he's upset. He spent 10 years and he's missed out on his own opportunities. Now, here's the thing. Why would you marry a woman and not get kids out of the arrangement? I think, and this is another point that most men's rights guys or manosphere guys never talk about. There in 2026, there is absolutely no reason to get married unless she is providing you children. That is it. Period. Bottom line. Take that to the bank. Unless you're getting children out of this equation, there's no reason to marry. Children are it. You're not because here's the thing, you're not going to get loyalty, you're not getting purity. The only thing you that a woman can provide to a man that is unique and remotely worth the risks that he is going to have to take is children. And yet men will be with a woman for 10 years and never demand children from her. That's crazy to me. That's absolutely insane. Let's see the comments. Totally get it. You built her a launch pad and she used it to leave. That sucks and it deserves to be called out for what it is. But too old to rebuild is just the exhaustion talking, not reality. You just spent a decade. You can execute against a long-term plan under pressure. You have the ability. It just needs a new target. Start with one question. What did you put on hold for her that you actually wanted for yourself? That's where you start. It's very optimistic, but a little bit of nonsense, to be honest with you. Now, I'm not saying he's too old. I have no idea how old this guy is. But the fact that he spent a decade wasted on her doesn't prove anything. Unfortunately, I wish it did. To everyone going through it, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Spent a lot of time lurking the sub when my marriage came to an end, so I thought I'd share my experience after. I can say I'm looking at everything through the rearview mirror. 3 years ago, my life came crashing down. D-Day. The bomb was dropped on me this random June evening, and my life did a complete 180. I went from planning a vacation, laughing, going on evening walks, talking about what we were going to do for our next house project, saying I love you before bed, to fighting to making it through the next minute, to fighting to make it through the next minute, let alone the entire day. Just like that, we were uncoupling our lives at warp speed. Everything was hostile lawyers, mediators, and the person that I fell in love with was just a distant memory. And then, boom, 4 months later, the house was sold and the divorce was finalized. What the hell just happened? I couldn't wrap my head around it at all. How did I go from being totally in love to being forced into the unknown with 2 feet? It didn't make sense. I had no idea what to do or how to get this behind me. Every second it seemed like I was stuck thinking about her and the death of my marriage, hoping maybe she would change her mind, asking myself, was there something I could have done to prevent this? It was quite literally driving me insane. I let the tears out, was doing the therapy, got everything off my chest, and everyone kept saying, just give it time, it'll get better. Quite frankly, that pissed me off too. Sure, it's easy for people to tell you that when they aren't the ones in the thick of it. But the more they would say that, the more mad I would get because it wasn't getting any better. Honestly, I just wanted someone to hit me over the head with a bat and I wouldn't wake up. And I would wake up, wouldn't wake up. I would wake up not knowing a thing about my past life. That was 3 years ago. Fast forward to today. Life is so much different now. It's much more beautiful than I could have possibly imagined. I've reconnected with old friends, got back into hobbies that I abandoned when I was married, traveled the globe, made new friends, met some of the most interesting people, excelled 10x in my career, and most importantly, fell in love with life and everything it has to offer again. Getting here wasn't easy. There's no magic recipe, and everyone processes emotions differently. But all I can say is time, patience, showing loving kindness to yourself go a long way. There were many days when I didn't want to get out of bed, and you might feel that way too, and it's okay. Give yourself the day to just sit inside and sit with your emotions. Stay inside and sit with your emotions. Don't just lose your faith and hope things are going to get better. I hope that things are getting better. Excuse me. Just don't lose your faith and hope that things are getting better because they are, even if it doesn't seem like it. Faith and hope are our pillars in this process, and behind the scenes, all the pieces that came apart are being put back together to create a better you. And it sort of goes on like that. If I can make it to the other side, anyone can. I'm nothing special. Love you all, and my heart goes out to everyone going through it. Stay strong. This is an interesting one because it's like what happens afterwards and how, for a lot of guys, you have to recreate your entire life. Like when these situations are over, like it's a real challenge. I don't know if I can read this one. Let's try. I served my wife divorce papers while she was. Can you say blowing? Let's assume you can. She was blowing her date in a car. In a parking lot, I had my cousin do it. He knocked on the window while she had a mouthful of him. She jumped up into his lap. He kept saying, "Can I ask you a question?" And the guy was like, "What the fuck do you want?" And my cousin was like, "I can't hear you. Can you crack the window just a little bit?" Which he did, and then she got served. Effing epic. She removed me from Find My iPhone the very next day. It felt like slaying a big beast, but it still hurts. The guy is a dentist going through his own divorce, so he's probably on here. Reddit. If you see this, yeah, this was me, bro, and that was you. You don't know what you're getting into. She's absolutely nuts. I feel bad for you. She thinks you're her soulmate already after 17 days and 3 dates. Does that sound like a sane, grounded person to you? P.S. My cousin recorded you, Tinder boy. Did she tell you she has genital herpes? She has a habit of not mentioning it. Ask her about it. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Next up, no one cares about men. I'm going through a divorce right now, and I'm currently sitting in the guest bedroom of my house having a drink and watching TV. My kids are in bed, and my wife currently has a friend in the living room. My wife and I are in that awkward stage where we're living in the same house and coexisting as we negotiate a separation. My siblings and some friends know about my situation, yet no one has called me unless I call them. My phone is dry, and I realize that no one really cares about me, and I think my situation is what many men go through. My life for well over a decade has been lived through the prism of a husband, but that is about to end. Not all my friends know about my situation, as I want to wait until I can move out of my house and still be able to see my children before I start broadcasting it. If it wasn't for my kids, I'm not sure the depths that I would sink into. Oh well, men like myself just need to pick themselves and find a way. I will. Can we talk about that? Can we talk about the role of the husband and father? And this, I think, is very difficult. So, some people will say, and this is very common, you'll hear this all over the internet. Uh, men choose happiness, men choose their families over their happiness, women choose happiness over their families. Common phrasing, we all understand what it means. I think one of the things that's not really well understood is how role oriented men are. And if you sort of think about it more broadly, it makes sense that men would be this way because for pretty much all of human history, men have had jobs. We've had jobs before the word job even existed. Like men have had very specific roles that they had to perform in society because a man's value is in what he does. Therefore, the men who find the most satisfaction in their job will be the ones who do it the longest, who tend to get better at it, who accumulate rewards from society because society is obviously going to reward the men who are most productive in their jobs, and the people who like their jobs or like being in a job will perform better. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, if you think about what school was, SKULE, originally from the German roots, it was a way to train soldiers. Not surprising. Prior to that, men had a habit of running away from gunfire for some unknown reason. But they started training boys to be soldiers. So started to train the training of boys into these roles. And it works really well because men are naturally very well suited to jobs. Now, in the modern era, we have our actual careers, things we do for money. We have the husband or boyfriend role, and then we have the father role. These are the critical roles. And I think one of the reasons why men will stay in marriages that don't work, will stay we'll say in jobs that are not fulfilling and the thing we don't see with men is the level of burnout that we see with women. And I think the big reason is because men are psychologically well suited to do the same things every day, to get up, put in the work, continue day in and day out, day in and day out for as long as it takes in order to uh, remain consistent with the role that they are performing, the consistency in the role that they're performing. And now, when the marriage dissolves, the role disappears. And so we're a bit like robots, especially guys of my generation, certainly older and a little bit younger. We're a little bit like robots. We have like a set of programs that are like you have a family, have kids, become the dad. That is the role. You must achieve the role. The role is everything. And it's like when you're not able to do that, or when you're no longer able to do that, and men really, really struggle. Women do not have this. And I brought this up before, which is that women have a role, usually mother, not necessarily wife. Women are interested in their careers, but most would say, if you gave me $1 million, I wouldn't go to work anymore. They're attracted. They're interested in the lifestyle, less so interested in doing the grind every day. And so when you look at all of these things together, what you see is that it's much easier for men to stick it out and become this more stable partner. And that's why men are the more stable partner. We file for divorce at between 20 and 30%, and women file divorce rates between 70 and 80%. Women are the ones leaving because for them it is about their happiness, and that makes a certain amount of sense. Women didn't have a job. Like raising the children means her identity is really the child, not so much to the husband, because don't forget the husband could be killed, the husband could run off, any number of things. And women stayed to look after the children. So women have a strong motherly role that they're attached to, certainly less so the wife. And what we've seen is the second that society takes the option of the wife role off the table, women drop that like a hot potato. They're not interested. I was in a date the other day and she tells me, well, I would be interested in having kids. I just don't know if I want to be committed to a man. And I tried to explain to her, you realize that puts the man in a very awkward position because you're not married to him. The kids are not, the kids are his, but if you contest that, he'd have to go to court to prove it. Unlike when you're married, for better or for worse, any kids that your wife has are soon to be yours. Now, there's a downside to that regarding paternity fraud, but we'll say that for another day. Um, but if you just become a baby father, You're just a guy. The kids may not even have your last name. You're just a guy. You might be their father, you might not, but you don't have their last name. They don't have your last name. You'd have to go to court for everything. And when the kids are young, the mother has a very clear advantage to keep you away. But a lot of guys do not think about this really clearly. Someone talking about walkaway wives. Walkaway wife syndrome isn't a phenomenon, it's a cultural failure. It's not new, it's not a modern discovery, not a TikTok trend, not empowerment, and not bravery. It's the collision of emotionally underdeveloped women, conflict avoidant women, uncommunicative women, shame driven women, unresolved trauma, avoidant attachment, zero accountability, and a society that infantilizes women while demonizing men. God damn, that's a sentence. Women don't walk away because they're courageous. They walk away because they've avoided conflict for years, resented silently, never learned relationship skills, trauma bonded, collapsed internally, couldn't face uncomfortable conversations, lived as children in adult bodies, hit midlife with no sense of self, panicked, and then scapegoated their husband because it was emotionally easier. Whew. Flounder Pounder 77 with the bars. Uh, this is an interesting point, and we'll keep reading parts of this. But one thing that women will always say, and this is something you'll notice with feminists, almost everything they say is projection. So what they'll say is women's unpaid labor, unvalued labor, free labor. But really, and this is the point here, men carry the burden of emotional labor without taking any credit. Most men work, provide, sacrifice, take hits silently, show up for kids, hold the family structure together, endure stress, stay loyal, push through exhaustion, keep their emotions in check, and do it all without a support system. Women in this situation get validation, sympathy, and cultural encouragement to quote unquote do what's best for you, while men get blamed, abandoned, financially gutted, emotionally starved, and told to just man up. No wonder so many men are angry, and the anger is justified. Yeah. And this is it. And so when I was sort of talking on this date that I had, and we talked about, okay, you're asking for all of these things from this man. So she would say things like, I need male leadership. I need feminine energy. I believe in traditional roles. And then she brought up that someone had asked her, a previous date had asked her, well, would you obey your husband? And she immediately got her back up. What do you mean obey my husband? I'm not a slave. She used that exact term. This is a white woman, by the way. I'm not a slave. So again, what they're asking for is for someone to come in, do all of this, and they get no authority, no respect, no acknowledgement for what they're doing. Like she wants this man to take a bullet for her, but if he makes a suggestion, she's ready to burn the house down. Let's continue. Most so called walkaway wives aren't leaving because of cheating, abuse, alcoholism, or monstrous husband. They're leaving because they never communicated their needs, resented silently, interpreted normal behavior through trauma, lacked emotional maturity, expected mind reading, fantasized about speaking up, fantasized instead of speaking up, and let resentment build until they rewrote the entire history of the marriage to justify their exit. This is called negative sentiment override, resentment poisoning every memory of the relationship so they can leave without facing the guilt or shame they deserve. And now society gives women an escape hatch, so they take it. They're told every day that if they're unhappy, they should leave, that their happiness matters more than family stabilities, that men are the problem, that they owe their husbands nothing. This turns selfishness into empowerment and leaves men holding the bag. What most men eventually figure out is that a woman who leaves this way isn't a mature adult. She didn't communicate, didn't warn, didn't negotiate, didn't express needs, didn't take responsibility, didn't show vulnerability, and didn't examine herself. She collapses emotionally, blames the nearest stable person, tells herself a story to avoid shame, convinces herself she's quote unquote finding herself, walks out because her identity is broken, and then society applauds her for it. It's not courage, it's quitting and cowardice dressed up as healing. God damn. Correct. Some posts about what to do afterwards when she says she wants out. This is like one phenomenon no one talks about. And actually that's not true. Women talk about this. So what most men will say, and if you spend any time in these subreddits or talking to men, they'll say, I never saw it coming. I know a guy personally, he's like, we were married for 25 years. I thought things were great. I guess not. Now she's out and I'm here, in my, I think he's in his mid 50s, renting an apartment. I'm downsizing from a giant house with my wife and my kids. My kids have to visit me here. And it's always a blindside. But when you talk to him, they'll say, he didn't listen for 25 years. I tried so hard, and then when I left, it was the last thing I could do to save myself. And it's always this underground railroad. It was me and Harriet Tubman, and she helped me escape. And you're just like, lady, you live in Rosedale. Like, I mean, what are we talking about? You left your husband, to fuck guys on Tinder. And that's something that I always found really interesting when I was younger. And when I started to think about this, when I would date women who were fresh out of relationships in the middle of separations, don't judge me. Um, and I would ask, like, so tell me about this guy. Like, at some point, here's the thing: when you're much younger and you're getting with married women, you don't care about these guys. You're like, because it's easy to believe the hype. He was a bad husband. Yeah, well, his loss, my gain. I'm in there like swimwear. And it does, but as you get older, you start to go, well, wait a minute, what happened? You don't want to overly, you don't want to harsh the buzz, but you're just like, I want to understand. Why are you here? Why are you dating me? And like, what did he do? And because they're with you and they're a bit more casual to tell you what's going on. And I used to ask, like, so yeah, so how did you know it wasn't going to work with your husband? And then women would just tell you, oh, I knew it wasn't going to work from the beginning. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But the thing is, he's a good guy. I knew he'd make a good dad. And so I had kids with him. And then, after a while, it was just time to leave. And I'm like, wow, imagine if a man is on a date and he says, oh yeah, my wife, oh my ex-wife, yeah. I knew that wasn't gonna work out. I just, it was time for me to have kids. She was there. So I had kids with her, now I'm divorcing her. You'd be like, oh my God, how can you? But again, there are a couple of key factors in all this that men have to understand. Number one, women do not see you as a human being. If you don't understand this, nothing women do will ever make sense. Women do not see you as a human being. The only men who women see as being truly human are the men they are attracted to. That's it. If you are not that guy, and I don't just mean willing to sleep with women, will sleep with men they're not that attracted to, or like moderately attracted to. But like when she genuinely is attracted to you, then you're a human being to her. If you're not, you're just some part of the help. Now you might be the help that gets sex every time, or you might be the help that pays for her meal. You don't know, but you are filed under help. That's where it is. You hear people talk, oh, she had me saved under food guy or bills guy. Trust me, if you're not the one guy or the guy that she likes, you are some version of a utility man. And that's one thing that guys have. Now, here's the thing. Nobody gives a shit about the utility man. No one cares if they ruin the utility man's life. And people, sometimes guys are like, well, she's going to wake up and regret it. They don't regret anything. Do you regret being, well, you're a man. You might actually do regret. Women don't regret. They just don't. It's like the way you should think about it is imagine I had um imagine you thought imagine you were doing something in your home and you saw a spider and you just hit it with a shoe. Do you think about it ever again? Do you lie awake at night going, I wonder if that spider had kids? They don't care. They don't care. When you are no longer what she wants or needs, you are that spider. And if guys could understand that, they could operate more intelligently. But it's hard because you want to believe that she sees you the way you see her, and she just doesn't. And I think men are slowly beginning to understand women do not love men the way men want to be loved. Maybe your mom does. And that's a maybe. For some guys, it's not even their moms. They've got no one. This is why dogs are so beloved, particularly by men, is that like a dog will love you like that. Like genuinely, truthfully, honestly happy to see you and be around you and to engage with you, super happy. But yeah, it's a different story. It's just a different story for women. So let's talk about this. When she says she wants out, step aside and show her the door. I do kind of find it a little bit funny that these some of these are like a little bit tough guy. Because you sort of imagine sort of like a middle-aged man with a large stomach going, when she wants out, step aside and show her the door. But I digress. Let's read this. I want to share something that might resonate with men who've been blindsided by their wife saying, I want a divorce. When it happens, it's like a bomb going off. The instinct is to fight for the marriage. You'll try everything you can think of to rekindle what you had. Reasoning with her, reminding her of the good times, pointing out how the kids will be devastated, even doing small gestures of care like washing her car or planning trips. I did all of that. I thought if I showed her respect, effort, and love, maybe she'd have second thoughts. Women don't have second thoughts. But here's the brutal truth. When she's reached that stage, in most cases, she's already gone. Maybe she's been planning it for months or even years. People say when a woman's done, she's done. And sadly, I hated that term, but I found it to be true. No amount of reminding her better times will bring her back if her mind is made up. And here's where men make the biggest mistake: begging, pleading, reasoning. It only erodes your dignity further and confirms to her that she's right to leave. My advice to anyone facing this: step aside. Don't stand in her way. Let her go. Show her the door. Don't demean yourself trying to convince someone who's already decided. As sickening and painful as it is, she deserves the door she wants to walk out of, and you deserve self respect. 100%. 100%. It's it's 100% like that. There's absolutely no point in reason. This is the other thing. Like if she breaks up with you, walk away. She tells you she doesn't want to see you, don't even reply back. Just move on with your life. It doesn't matter. You're not going to win an argument. She's not going to reconsider. She's not going to be like, oh, wow, you make such a reasoned point. I'm definitely going to rethink whether or not I want you now. She's not. Just move on. Don't spend your dignity chasing this person who has told you repeatedly they don't want you. Moving on. Let's talk about the other divorce subreddit. Someone says, honestly, go read the divorce subreddit if you need a laugh. Because after a while, you realize they're all the same story: the planning, the silence, the emotional checkout months or year before the husband even realizes what's happening. Meanwhile, the dude is outside cleaning the grill or folding laundry, thinking life is good, while she's internally preparing a TED talk about quote unquote finding herself. And yeah, relationships take effort from both people. Nobody's perfect, but social media's absolutely destroyed realistic expectations when it comes to relationships and marriage. 100%. Everybody thinks that the grass is greener somewhere else until they realize every relationship requires effort. The craziest part is reading both sides. The husbands are usually emotionally destroyed trying to save the family, while some of the wives are already mentally gone talking about quote unquote choosing happiness, while the guy is sitting there looking like Lieutenant Dan in the storm, wondering what the hell just happened to his life. But I'll say this, 2 years later, I'm actually grateful. I went through my divorce. My relationship with my daughter's amazing. I built a peaceful life for me and my little girl, and I genuinely enjoy my life now. So if you're one of those guys going through it now, just know you're stronger than you think. And once the blinders come off, you'll probably realize your ex-wife probably did you the biggest favor of your life. Stay up, my dudes. It's a good point. Yeah. New study indicates why women hate men, and it's very telling. Some direct quotes from the Guardian article I just read. The most frequently listed qualities women said they were looking for in a partner were kindness and emotional intelligence, Jesus Christ, mental and physical health, shared values, ambition and being hardworking, financial stability, masculinity and maturity, and willingness to commit to equal and monogamous relationship. Of course. As well as in many cases having a family. I'm looking for a man who has goals, ambition, is intelligent, trustworthy, a provider, supportive, considerate, assertive, masculine, honest, faithful, intentional, and has healthy self esteem and a sense of humor, loves to go out and loves fitness. My friends, I'm learning that no matter what we do or who we are as men, will never be enough to meet the unrealistic standards and expectations of women who are maybe doing half of the things they require from us. And when we disagree with their standards and requirements, they say that we're red pilled. I'm a liberal who doesn't even listen or begin to entertain the quote unquote red pill rhetoric, but I'm aware that it exists. But I'll be lumped in with the best of them for simply disagreeing with this narrative. What an absolutely intellectually dishonest and emotionally destructive way to approach real people in the real world. And I'm happy to stay single with this bullshit from women who demand perfection but refuse to reciprocate by even a single inch. Alone forever is looking better by the day. And this is it. The things that women require from men is enormous. But and women will say things like, "Oh, he's doing his quote his honey-do list." And I said, "Imagine if a woman came into the office, she's like, "Oh man, a tiring weekend. My husband had a list of things for me to do. Man, all Sunday just getting through his list. They'd be ready to call the cops to throw this guy under the prison." So why is it that it is okay in reverse? Because women will say things like, "Oh my God, I'm not a slave. I'm not going to obey you," but they have no trouble giving orders. They have no trouble asking for things, expecting it to be done, getting mad if it's not done to their standards. But this, they're the second that you ask, "Okay, you want all this stuff, fine. I'm not even going to argue with whether or not these things are realistic. Who cares? What are you prepared to give up in order to get them?" And that's when you realize not only are their standards unrealistic, they are not prepared to do anything, to give up anything in order to get them. And the simple one is leadership. This is the one, and this happened to me on my date. They'll say things like, "I want masculine leadership." Okay, I want female. I want to have female energy and masculine energy, and I want masculine leadership. I said, okay. So let me ask you: you're at a party. It's late. You're having a good time. Things are going well. Your husband comes up to you and says, "We need to leave right now. Like right now. Get your coat. We're leaving right now." And he turns. Are you prepared to follow him? And you should see just the sputtering and the, "Well, but why can't he just tell me? Why can't?" And I said, "Does he have to explain himself in that moment in order to get you to comply?" She's like, "Well, then it's well, I mean, if we're and the sputtering and the confusion, finally, this person admitted, no, I would follow him." Okay. But then she immediately went back to, "Yeah, but I don't understand why he can't spend 2 seconds and just tell me." And that's the reality. The reality is they don't want leadership. They want partnership. But if there's a situation where they're in danger, they want you to take over and protect them. Then when they hear about it afterwards, they'll be like, "Oh, thank God you just took me out of this situation." But when when they have to be like, I may not, and that's easy because they will agree with that to say, honey, I saw a gunman. But if they may disagree, suddenly they have a problem. They're not willing to be led, and they're not willing to give up any autonomy in order to be led. And the problem, and this is something that these guys are talking about here, is that what we don't do is explain to women that all of these things have consequences. You want assertive masculinity? Well, assertive masculinity is not necessarily going to want an equal monogamous relationship because in his masculinity, he will take a leadership role. Leadership does not mean equal. It means I lead. I have to make the decision. I am responsible. I have to listen. I have to be trustworthy. I have to do all of these things. And it's like the man is trustworthy. Are you trusting? We never ask women if they are even trusting. We just say the fault of a woman's ability to trust must be the man. Every fault is society failing the woman, not woman failing society. Every relationship issue is the man failing the woman. The woman can never fail the man. What if the man is trustworthy and she can't trust? He's supposed to be a provider. What is she doing? We are not allowed to ask what women provide in society. We're not allowed to ask what value women bring to the table. In a real conversation I had this weekend, I said, "How imagine if there was a list for women?" She's like, "Women don't need a list. We just do it." And it's like he's doing specific tasks that are above, that are different from the norm. She's like, "Yes, well, women would just do those tasks naturally." And you're just like, anything to avoid the reality that if you gave a woman a list of tasks, she'd be fucking pissed. And so much of the work that women have done is to become the men that they've complained existed. Whether or not those men existed is irrelevant now. Most of those men are gone. Now, most of them are women. And now men are being asked to tolerate behaviors that even their own mothers didn't tolerate. And I understand why Alone Forever is looking better by the day. At some point, and this is the thing, if there's one thing that I hope you get from this stream is that getting into a relationship is not the goal, particularly a serious one. If you're just having fun, whatever. But getting into a relationship where you get married is not the goal. Getting into a relationship that works is the goal, if that's what you're looking for. So the standard can't be, will she go out with you? Will she date me? Even will she sleep with me? The standard has to be, is she the sort of person who actually wants to contribute to a relationship? Again, remember what I said at the top of the show. It is your nature to give. Therefore, you must take. You must make sure she gives because it is in her nature to take. Only in doing the things which is not in her nature can you see whether or not there's any real commitment to this relationship. If there is, she will. She will override her tendency to take and she will give. She will override her tendency to spend and she will invest. She will override her tendency towards self protection and be vulnerable. If she won't do any of those things, you don't want a relationship with her. And men have to start getting very, very comfortable with rejecting women who are not good choices for them. Leaving them is the best thing to ever have. Them leaving is the best thing to ever happen to you. I don't know if that's true. Healthy relationships, making her get a job was the best thing, that the best decision that I ever made. My soon to be ex wife dropped the divorce bomb on me last December. We've been married 9 years and have a 2-year-old daughter together. That kid should have been 7, at least, by the time they got to year 9. What the hell was he doing, anyways? He got a 2-year-old out of it. Pushed me to get a better paying job so she could be a stay at home mom. I eventually did, bought a house together, worked my ass off so she could stay home with our daughter. Sweet, right? Wrong. I came home and the house was upside down, diaper full, daughter crying endlessly. And what was my wife doing? On her phone, doom scrolling Instagram. Good, you're finally here. I need to take a shower. I dropped my backpack and took over, changed her diaper, cooked dinner, cleaned the house, started laundry, soothed my daughter, all me, didn't change clothes until I put her to sleep. This was 5 days a week for 8 months straight. Weekends still me. Resentment started early on. I addressed it and was met with resistance and gaslighting. You don't love me. You're not a real man. You put me in this situation. I had to stop my career for you. Okay, enough is enough. You need to get a job. After four to 5 months of searching, she finally got one and made about the same income I did. My reaction, I'm proud of you, honey. Her reaction, okay. All right, we need to send her to daycare. That'll be an extra $1,200 a month, but we can manage with dual income. Her reaction, well, that's your problem. I'm sorry, what? We both make the same income. How do you expect me to add additional costs while you go scot free? And again, what did I say at the top of the show? Well, I take care of everything in the house. This is the lie that you have to deal with on day one, on day frigging one. And what he says, he said, no, you don't, but okay. No, 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 no. You can't let this go. You cannot let this go. A lot of guys will do this again to keep the peace. I totally get it. But when you do things and you say, uh, when she says I take care of everything in the house, you have to fight that because that's the beginning of the end. The second that she's like, I take care of everything, you have got to run that idea into the ground and put three stakes in its heart. Otherwise, the vampire will drain all the life out of your marriage. But let's keep going. I'll do all the housework I already do, and you have to pay. She said, so he says, I will do all the housework, which I already do, and you will have to pay half of all living expenses. She's like, fine. Everything changed for her, nothing changed for me. Again, also, let's stop for a minute. When now the mom has money, and what does she want to do? She wants to hoard it for herself because it's hard for women to give. I've said this like 10 times in the stream. It is not in a woman's nature to give, especially to a man. If she loves you, if she genuinely cares about you, yes, she will give. But left to her own devices, it is not in her nature to give. So as soon as she has something, that's for her. You keep doing everything else. So I'm still the one picking up my daughter from daycare, taking her for the rest of the evening. My wife comes home at 7:30, goes out with her friends, getting her nails done, shopping. My therapist said you're a single father with two kids, one who's a toddler, another who's a teenager. You're looking after your family, but who's looking after you? Nobody. Her family came over for my daughter's birthday. First thing I know they observed was I was literally the one doing everything. Her mom says, you have such a great husband, but can you help him? Her reaction, well, he makes me pay half for everything, so it's his job to take care of the house. Then came the divorce bomb. So what does she do when she has money? She slowly begins to accumulate wealth to achieve escape velocity. I'm not happy. You have no ambition. You don't take me out. I want a husband who takes care of me. You make me pay for everything. I will be taking my daughter to Texas, 5 goddamn states away, once I can transfer my work to be closer to my family. I started documenting everything, took screenshots. Man, he was managing all the finances. Of course, he was scared that she was going to take his daughter away. By the way, this is, and he said this is a country that screws over dads 9 times out of 10. Now look, what he did here is absolutely brilliant, 100%. A lot of guys will be like, oh no, she's not going to do that. Oh, she never do that to me. Look, I was on a date yesterday. You know what she says to me? She says, because I brought up, it's like if the man isn't married, he's going to be in a real tough time if you decide to fight him on custody. She's like, "Oh, I would never do that." In my head, I'm just like, "Lady, you saying that is completely worthless because at any point in time, A woman reserves the right to change her mind. So your words are worth less than nothing. And this guy understands. He takes the threat seriously. He contacted attorneys. They both said that full custody would be difficult because judges are conservative in my county, will not look kindly on me demanding full custody, even with the evidence against her. Just because you do everything doesn't mean she's incapable of taking care of her. But 50-50 is attainable since you both work and have equal income. Alimony and child support will not apply. However, I would like to see her try moving to Texas. Things will not go well for her. So the best thing he could do was that he pushed her for a job. Now it's interesting. He pushed her for a job, and I think the second that he did that, she began thinking about divorce. She might have done all this, but chances are on his salary, he would not have been able to provide her with much of a living, so there probably wasn't much for her to get. So it was easy for her to be a stay-at-home mom. But because she has money, now she has different options. So he informed her that she wants a divorce, she can have one, but she's not taking his daughter away, and he would be filing for 50-50 custody. She was not happy, but seemed to think she can do what she wants. He thinks she contacted an attorney, but she's been very quiet lately. Probably told she can't really move like that and won't be receiving child support or alimony. She's been looking for apartments and is dumbfounded at the cost. She was paying half of everything. Now she has to pay full cost of everything and actually has to be a parent. I think she's at a breaking point. I'm recording everything, every conversation taped. Again, brilliant. Every conversation is taped. She knows this as well. If you need to talk to me, you have to do it in front of a camera. Her mentioning moving to Texas was also taped and clearly shows her intent to move. We're selling the house, and I gave her a timeline of April, May. My family lives here and been very supportive of me. I'll be moving in with my mom after selling the house. She has to figure it out. People say she has PPD. I disagree. She has MWDS, Modern Woman Derangement Syndrome. Thanks for listening. And I guess we'll end it here. If there is a lesson in any of this, is that number one, you absolutely have to get something for male commitment and leadership. You must get something. She must give you something, and no, sex does not count. If a woman asks you to be the man, to be the provider, to be the leader, she must give up something. And if she freaks out at even the concept of her giving up something, she is never going to appreciate what you do for her ever. So that's it for today. Thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you next time.